Hello and welcome to the last episodes, the series in which we tie up the loose ends left during our journey on Citadel Guard Adventures. This is Beriathan of the Citadel Guard of Gondor, and today we are back in Mossworth because there are a couple things that we missed during our journey through Swanfleet and Cardolan. Some things that we didn't get to see at that time. Some things I am curious about, not things we necessarily missed, but that are a little bit different than what we saw initially. So that's what we will be checking today. This is gonna be a little bit of a fragmented episode as I jump from location to location, but hopefully it will come all around together nicely at the end. So our first stop is here by Mossworth, because one of the very first things that you do when you are following the epic, Tegwyn serves as a tutorial of sorts to many of the game mechanics. And after you show him the defeat circle and after you talk with Scardy, he will have you train with the dummy. So if you will remember on the initial episode, on the original episode of Mossworth, we talked to Tegwyn and we explain a little bit of what the Warden skills are. And then Tegwyn asks to see a demonstration with the training dummy. And after a couple of rounds with the dummy, Tegwyn declares himself satisfied, gives us back the Uruk sword, and that way we can continue with the epic. But if you are high level, if you are too high of a level for this quest, I would assume if you are 9 levels or above, so that this quest becomes gray, so starting at level 11, then Tegwyn's dialogue will change, and this is what you will see. This training dummy has seen its fair share of battle. Okay, so first we need to finish the previous quest, the reward doesn't matter. And now, I must be honest with you, Beriathan. It is clear to anyone that you are already an experienced adventurer with many skills. I did not really expect you to treat me like a grown-up, but you have taken the time out of your day to show me what it takes to become an adventurer. I have seen enough. You have upheld your side of our bargain and I will do the same. Here is Mathruk's weapon as I promised. You'll bring it back to the ranger for me, I expect? Mother and father will be pleased, but I still say I could have handled such a weapon. Alright, this one I like better than the original version if you are on level with a quest, because you will remember if you're on level with a quest, Tegwyn will, as I said, ask you to demonstrate some of your skills, and then he will try to hide the fact that he is impressed by your showcase and give you back the sword. I don't remember if he is a little bit hesitant to give you the sword back or not, but on that initial version we still have this characterization of Tegwyn that I don't like that much, as a little bit cocky, a little bit arrogant, and so full of himself. Here we still have some of that, but we can still also see some humility of Tegwyn saying, yeah, I can see that you are way beyond my station, but thank you anyway for spending some time with me. Here's the sword. I could have handled it, but I know you will do better. And I like this version of Tegwyn better. It makes him a little bit more likable, if you ask me. So it's a shame we cannot see this at all times, but I understand why they did it the way they did it. If you are a low-level player and they needed to make it so that new players could get a proper tutorial, and the only way in which you can differentiate the new players from the veteran players is by their level. So it's a shame that we can only get to see this if you are high level, but it's such a nice detail. I love it, and I like this one even more. Very well, the next stop on this episode is here in Lhan Garan. So when you get the introduction quest to Lhan Garan, you come here, talk to Talfrain, and he will give you 3 different tasks. One of those is an introduction to crafting, which once again is intended for new players to get their crafting vocation and get to learn how crafting works in the game. My question has always been, if you come here as a high-level character which has already maxed his or her crafting, I'm just missing a couple tiers here on the farmer side, but I'll get to that at some point, no big deal. But if you already come here with some crafting mastery, what will happen? Will the game acknowledge that in any way? Or will we just left with, hey, complete your introduction to crafting quest? That is a very interesting thought. So,
Hear me out, Duvodian.
I can teach you about the traits, yes. Speak with me and I'll help you get started on your crafting journey.
Greetings. Will you remain here long?
Okay, well, this is a little bit interesting. The dialogue is still the same, and the quest still wants you to complete three of the available introduction quests. But since we had already chosen a vocation, this is at least acknowledging that we no longer can choose scholar from the list because we already have chosen that. And on top of that, the game detects that and it's already given us the introduction to these historian professions, the scholarship, the weaponsmithy, and the farming.
Perhaps you may be of help to me?
But other than that, I don't see any difference in here whatsoever. I mean,
Hear me out, Duvodian, for I have a tale to tell.
yeah, we have technically completed our own introduction quests on the other starter areas. You can do it in Kellandim, in Thorin's Gate, in the Shire, and in Brayland. And it would be nice if the game could somehow detect that you have already completed one of those introductions to crafting in other places, so that it could change this quest a little bit, like with Tegwyn, like, oh, I can see you already know your crafting, my apologies, please go on with your day. Or just simply skip the quest altogether. I don't know how hard would that be with the code of the game. And my guess is that it's a little bit more complex than it might seem. Otherwise, the devs might have done something along those lines of allowing you to at least mark those quests as completed, like what happened with Tegwyn. And it seems there is more to crafting than what the eye can see. Because if you remember, all this year, we have been talking about the crafting updates that will break professions away from vocations so that you can pick any profession you like and not have them be tied to vocations anymore. And at least on paper, well, on paper it is a great idea, on paper and on reality, but it works. It's not as simple as it sounds, because Orion has taken to the forums a couple times to explain, or at least to tell us, that it hasn't been as simple. There is something going on with the code of the game that has proved a challenge for the LOTRO devs to be able to take professions away from their vocations. So it seems there is something else going on with crafting behind the stage, and well, we don't know what it is, but my guess is whatever is going on with crafting is also what prevents the game from realizing you have done this and allowing you to skip a little bit of these introduction quests, even if it were just a stage or two of each quest. But it seems the game's code cannot do it. So the introduction to crafting is basically the same. The game just acknowledges that you have already picked up a vocation. You still have the option of picking another one, of course, but we're not going to do that today. Or ever, I guess. Well, our next section here, sort of a discovery. I was just doing some regular questing combined with delvings, which means I've been killing a lot of enemies, and what I found that I hadn't realized before is that there seemed to be some hidden virtue XP for Slayer deeds only. Because you would remember from our original Before the Shadow videos, I would get no virtue XP after completing the Explorer deeds or those meta deeds. I sadly didn't get the Brigand Slayer advanced deed on camera because I was not expecting that. But I realized that when I completed Brigand Slayer Advanced, I got 2000 Virtue XP. So I'm thinking the same is going to happen when I complete Work Slayer and Uruk Slayer here in Swanfleet. I'm one short for the Work Slayer. Let us check that out. Yeah, there is Virtue XP in here. You would see completed Work Slayer of Swanfleet Advanced. And let's see what that got us. 5 LOTRO points. As you see here, the deed log doesn't list the Virtue XP. But we did get, in fact, 2000 Virtue XP. Now, the real question in here is if this has always been the case ever since before the Shadow released, or if the devs, after getting that backlash for these deeds not having Virtue XP, decided to add them, but forgot to update the UI for the deed log. Any one of those seems likely to me. Having the Virtue XP hidden from the deed log would mean some players would not complete the deed because they don't see any value in it. And you know, my initial theory was that they didn't add Virtue XP to Swanfleet and Cardolan to avoid high-level players to come in here and just farming the Virtue XP easily. And if they don't list that in the deed log, then that means most of those high-level players would not bother with these layer deeds. I know I wouldn't unless I weren't doing them. I know I wouldn't unless I didn't get them by chance, as it happened now. But the question is, you can advance these deeds by completing delvings too. So maybe that argument doesn't have as much ground as I initially thought. In that case, the second option seems more likely than the first one. That is, they might have added the Virtue XP at a later point and forgot to update the UI. In any case, as you see in here, on the Works layer of Swanfleet, there is no Virtue XP on the deed log, but we did get some. And the same thing happened with the Brigand Slayer of Swanfleet Advanced. So I am not sure if this is gonna happen with all other Slayer deeds in Swanfleet and potentially Cardolan, but if I find them, I'll be sure to follow on this section. Alright, so here we are at a Caras Gelebren, and once again we are about to complete the Uruk Slayer Advanced, and we'll see how that goes. And there's some more Virtue XP in here as well. So for completing the Uruk Slayer of Swanfleet Advanced, we got 2000 Virtue XP, which once again is not reflected on the deed log. And for completing the meta deed, we do get some Virtue XP that is disclosed in here, plus the title. So we have once again another title giving you Virtue XP that the deed log doesn't disclose to you. Alright, and now here we are in Cardolan in Thorbat, ready to start checking the Slayer deeds of Cardolan. The first one on the list is Orc Slayer Advanced. So let's see what this one shows. There's also Virtue XP awarded for this one. As you can see, a 2000 Virtue XP. But if we go to the deed log, once again, only the LOTRO points show on the deed log, no Virtue XP. So it seems the Slayer deeds in Cardolan also have hidden Virtue XP awarded, but we're gonna check them all just to be safe. Very well, and we are also about to complete the Half-Orc Slayer Advanced deed, so let's check this one out as well. So we got Reputation, and we got more Virtue XP. And if we go back to the deed log, I think, yeah, once again, we only have the LOTRO points and the Reputation, but not the Virtue XP on the deed log. So we have pretty much confirmed that all Slayer deeds in Swanfleet and Cardolan, the advanced deeds, will grant you Virtue XP, but the deed log will not show that to you. But well, now that we are here. Might as well complete the other two, right? The Dead Slayer and the Goblin Slayer. So I'll be back with you in just a sec when I'm ready to complete those two. Very well, and here we are ready to complete the Goblin Slayer Advanced deed. So let us check this one too. So once again, 2000 Virtue XP. That is not listed on the deed log, so we have the confirmation we've had for a long time, but I'm nonetheless going to show you all the deeds, and we're only missing the Dead Slayer deed now, so I'll be back with you in just a sec. Alright, and here we are ready to complete the Dead Slayer Advanced in Cardolan and the meta deed as well, but let's check what happens when we do. So, we got, first of all, for completing Dead Slayer Advanced, 2000 Virtue XP, and for completing the meta deed, another 2000 Virtue XP. So, if we check these deeds, you'll see on the meta deed you get the Virtue XP listed on the deed log alongside the title, the LOTRO points, and the reputation, but the Dead Slayer doesn't have the Virtue XP reflected on the deed log. So much like Swanfleet, like we had already confirmed, all advanced Slayer deeds will award you Virtue XP, but only the meta deeds will show the Virtue XP actually within the deed log. Nonetheless, you get Virtue XP for all of that. Advanced Slayer deeds and the meta deeds for completing all those Slayer deeds as well. Well, we got a really nice new title too. You have proven yourself a mighty slayer of foes in Cardolan. That we have. Fairly easy when we can one-shot everything, but the most important thing in here is this Virtue XP that I wasn't counting on, and maybe you weren't aware that these deeds also awarded Virtue XP, so there you go. Don't miss them out. Don't sleep on these deeds, basically. The next portion of what we missed comes here in the instance of the Giver of Gifts, as we see Antheron, aka Sauron, imparting his knowledge to his new students. You can see here Laerdan, disapproving elf, and we have here Amarthiel up as an elf student. And this is, if I'm not mistaken, this is Narmeleth's friend, whose name right now I cannot remember, but that we also see during the session play in Volume 1, Book 15. God, I don't remember her name, but there we go. Suspicious elf and trusting elf and Narmeleth herself. I think I have the name in here. I don't remember her name. I'm sorry, but Arodale. Okay, yeah, I was double checking here online, and there we go. We have those three names. I actually hadn't realized Arodale was also part of the instance, but I think that's her because that is her model, and her being that close to Laerdan makes me believe that. And there we go. Laerdan, Narmeleth, and Arodale, whose names, none of their names are of course disclosed in this instance, because that would spoil the surprises of Volume 1 to new players who are entering the game through Before the Shadow. For the next part of the video, I thought it would be a good idea to complete the Dwellers of Old Swanfleet deed. On our original Before the Shadow playthrough, we got the last 4 of these deeds. The well-used fishing rod is by Helig. The cache of old notes is in Tam Kelahir, no, in Tam Lasgol actually. The collection of poetry is located in Walcruvan, and the Rusted Dagger is just north of Mossworth. But we are still missing these first 3 locations, and the first one is really close by in this location of Cadas Galevren. I'm not entirely sure where, but okay, yeah, it wasn't that hard. I don't know why we missed this initially, but well, There we go, you have discovered an old cornerstone. These old stones may have borne witness to Sauron's onslaught, but they still hold fast to happier memories. Weddings, personal centenaries, and ceremonies of all kinds took place in this once elegant pavilion. So that's the first one, the cornerstone. Now we have the curious pendant, which is a little bit southeast of Caras Galavern by this river in here. To my knowledge, there's no quest that will send you to this general area, so once again, not sure how people manage to stumble upon all this. I mean, well, I can see how. They just go to every single corner of the map, but I really don't see myself doing it. I'm thankful for the ones who do and leave the information out there for us to find. In any case, here we have the pendant. So let's check this one. You find a small pendant tucked away in the knot of the tree. My love, if you are reading this, then you have succeeded at my little treasure hunt and claimed the prize. I had this necklace made to your tastes. I look forward to seeing you wear it. Oh, that's so nice. And that's most likely an elven courtship, if you will. But now the question is, was this romance... did this romance meet a happy ending, or did Sauron's attack on Caras Galavern cut short whatever aspirations this couple had? It's up in the air, but it's a little sad just thinking about them being thwarted or interrupted by Sauron. Poor couple. Now I'm really curious. And since there is no quest around here to my knowledge, then I guess this is just it. I will need to forget about this, I guess, because otherwise it's going to gnaw at me for a long time. But in any case, here we have the curious pendant, and now we are just missing the last one. And lastly, we have the engraved stone, which is really close to the connection, well, one of the connections between Swanfleet and Enedwaith, right over here, in fact. So let's check this one out. So we have completed the deed, we have the tile and everything, but let us check this. And the engraved stone. There are carvings in the stone to mark each time this structure was renovated. The oldest numbers are impossible to decipher, and the most recent numbers date back to a time that precious few remember. So we got 5 LOTRO points with this, 1000 virtue XP, which is not much, but it helps. And we got the title Hidden Jewel. You have learned much of the history of Swanfleet. So that's it for the Dwellers of Old Swanfleet Explorer deed. The only Explorer deeds that we are missing now is the treasure chests in Swanfleet and Cardolan. I think that's beyond the scope of this video. So we're gonna jump right straight ahead to the next section on this video, and that is something that I have always been curious about. That is the connection of Swanfleet and Cardolan with the other areas in the game. So we can start by checking this gate to Enedwaith in here. And checking the road. I remember being very curious about how this road would continue. When I realized that this road would eventually lead you to Breland, my mind was just dreaming with the possibilities, and that seems like so long ago. And now we're here. We can seamlessly go from Enedwaith to Bree and even beyond. So that is an amazing perspective. This still counts as the Old South Road, but it's not gonna be too long before we cross into the border with Enedwaith, and you'll see how in just a moment. But now that I see all the room that you had, I wish I had come here a little bit sooner. I would have gotten that engraved stone a little bit sooner. But anyway, we are about to reach the structure that I'm dying to see. That one on the horizon over there. For us, there's not going to be a big difference because we are way too overleveled anyway. But you will see what I was a little bit wary of coming here with my low level Beriathan. And that is because these Enedwide mobs are level 60. They would have crushed us. And here we are at the Kingsway Gate. And you will remember here is where we found Wadu. No, Wadu, if I'm not mistaken, was a little bit further south from here, but this is where we find the sword. We had to come here at some point for the epic. And this door was, of course, closed. And this is where I always wonder what is behind this door. I want to take a look. I want to be able to go on this road. It would be so cool if that happened sometime. And once again, it has happened. And here you can see the seamless connection with Enedwide for the Old South Road, which of course you wouldn't want to take unless you are level 60. Otherwise you would get crushed in here. But we are more than capable of doing so. Alright, now I want to check another connection with Enedwide. This one is right outside Lintrep. You just follow the road, which is a little bit hard to see in here, but there is a road. And this one is also really cool. So you're already seeing this, aren't you? So through this sort of gap in here, we get to Maur Tulau once again in Enedwide. It's been a long time since we visited the hobbits in here, but here they are. And one of them, somewhere around here, yeah, I think it was this guy.
Welcome to Vodiad. Is there aught you need?
There was one of these hobbits that was inaccessible for a short amount of time because the LOTRO team was building a... I think it was this guy. I don't know. I don't remember which guy it was. But since the LOTRO team was building Swanfleet and Cardolan behind the scenes, it was this guy.
My cousin's sister's son's uncle.
They were building Swanfleet and Cardolan behind the scenes, and they placed some invisible walls to stop players from going in there before time. They accidentally got this guy behind invisible walls, so that meant you couldn't talk to him to advance some quests. They, of course, well, that bug was solved rather quickly, but that nonetheless put some players into... notified some players in a way that there was something going on around this area. So a lot of people were able to kind of guess that we were getting a new area behind Enedwide. So Swanfleet and Cardolan was a long-known secret for details such as this. But that was the connection to Maur Tulau, which I also enjoy quite a lot. If you are low level, I think you can safely come in here because no, you don't have any risk of being attacked inside the town. But you still gotta be careful. Otherwise, if you leave the town, then you are gonna get yourself into trouble. And in here, if I'm not mistaken, you can also get... Now that we have here the connection with Enedwide 2, finding the fishing hole in Maur Tulau is way easier than it used to be. Because now it is technically a part of Swanfleet, believe it or not. I don't remember how you were supposed to get in here from Maur Tulau. There was a little bit of exploring to do coming through this area over here. So you really had to explore the village back in the day to be able to find a fishing hole and unlock the deed. But now it's so much easier now that you can come through the Swanfleet side anyway. So that is the connections between Swanfleet and Enedwide, or at least the more prominent ones. Now we're gonna check some of the connections to Old Eregion. Okay, and the next connection is also pretty self-explanatory. Here we are gonna check the connection between Western Eregion and the original Eregion. And I think there are a couple of them, but the first one in here is just following the road. And this will take us to Eregion, as you can see, Miroville. And Ehat Miroville is right in there. So, Miroville and Caras Galevren are two different names given to the same city, the capital of Eregion, Ostinedil. The LOTRO team doesn't have the rights to use that name, so they had to come up with their own. They used Miroville for the eastern side that was initially released with Eregion, and then Caras Galevren was used for the western side in Swanfleet. Now we also have Thammirdine, and this would most likely be the connection, or between another way of connecting the two sides of Eregion. But since Thammirdine is just an instance, that means that unless the LOTRO team does some further changes to this landscape, unless the LOTRO team creates a landscape version of Thammirdine to create a seamless experience from Miroville to Caras Galevren, then we are out of luck, because in here it's gonna send us.
Angmar has gathered all they need to kindle the forges of Eregion.
Doom of the North. Oh, it's gonna allow us to repeat this one. This is where Laerdan dies and Mordred comes back and cuts Narwheel from Amartil's hand. So all this space is a big instance that separates Caras Galevren from Miroville proper. So there's no way for us to take that road. And I'm not sure about this other one in there, because that seems like the space for another instance, but we can try and check that one really quick, because we have almost explored all the connections on Swanfleet, the ones that I know of at least, or the ones that I wanted to check anyway, because, well, believe it or not, this is the first time I have taken the time to actually see how Swanfleet connects to all regions adjacent to it. I had already checked the Enedwaith connection, but I was missing some of the other ones, and all this is really exciting. Well, let's see what's beyond this door, but I think this is gonna be the entrance to another instance, maybe the Three-Mans, I'm not sure. It's been a long while since last I came to Eregion. The library, yeah. So this is gonna be just another entrance, another instance. So yeah, unless the LOTRO team creates landscape versions of those spaces, which I don't see them doing anytime soon, that means that the only way to connect Swanfleet through Eregion is the road that we just took. Of course, you can cross through some of these hills in here, because you can also go from Swanfleet to to Wingris, for example, from Tamkela here. Might be able to check that one too, because we also need to check the connection with the angles. So let me see if we can do those connections. Very well, now we are in Western Eregion, almost there to the original Eregion, if you want to call it that. I think we just need to come down this slope for the transition to click. Not entirely sure, but those trees in there look a little bit different from the ones we've been seeing in Swanfleet so far. So I think it's a safe theory to say maybe this wall of rocks is some sort of barrier, a warning, if you will, for the low-level players. Like, be wary, you're about to go to where you're not supposed to, because, well, they had to take a lot of precautions to avoid this kind of issues. One way in which I think they avoided this was to give in plenty of room before you transition to the other maps, as we have seen so far. And the landscape transition, at least, it's pretty seamless. It does take a while, so for you to realize that you are where you're not supposed to in case you don't have the level requirements for the high level areas. But all this place will eventually take you to Hallin. So you can go to High Hallin, closer to Ekateregion, or you can go a little bit further north if you want to cross from Swanfleet to Gwingris. Here we have... is that the Citadel? It seems to be. The bit of the Citadel that, well, the river no longer flows through here because it was used to create a pool before Moria. But it seems this is where the river initially ran through. So, well, that is the connection, well, one of the connections between Swanfleet and Eregion. A pretty big one, if you ask me, because it basically covers half of the map of Eregion and connects it to Swanfleet. You can even get to Mirabel from this sort of open landscape. Now, we are not that close from, well, not that far, sorry, from another one of these connections that I want to check. I'm not sure if you can use it or go through there from the Swanfleet side of things, but let me double check this one in any case. Now here, really close to the frontier with Hallin and Eregion, is the location for one of the last quests we did in Swanfleet, the Workmaster, I think it was. So yeah, if you're not careful, you can find yourself crossing to where you are not supposed to be. Most players wouldn't have an issue with that, I believe. Experienced players know what to expect and what to avoid. But new players, I don't know if they had any big issues with that. So, we are back in Swanfleet already, but this is a connection that I think it's a little bit trickier to make because this is the Horwell, the Mythatel. As you can see here is the connection with the angle, but crossing from Swanfleet to the angle doesn't seem to be that simple. It seems the shore over there on the angle side is easily accessible, but if you want to do this from the Swanfleet side, you will need to jump. Oh my god. Yeah, some clipping issues in there. I didn't mean to fall. And now, I don't know if we can get back. Yeah, we should be able to get back up. Because the entire frontier between Swanfleet and the angle seems to be like this. So there are some cliffs on this side, and most of the other side, the angled side, is also let's say covered by those cliffs. So really crossing from Swanfleet to the angle doesn't seem that feasible. I already kinda expected that, but there is another way in which we can check possibly the connection between Cardolan and the angle, but let me jump to the Cardolan side and we can check that out. Alright, and now we are in the Everstead in Sedgemead. You will remember this is where we came to do the Deceased Boar questline. And something really curious that I found about it while I was checking everything in here is that since we are so close to the Trollshaws, these boars actually do count for the Beast Slayer deed of the angle if you are at the appropriate level. So I guess that would mean level 40 and up. So that explains why we didn't get that deed during the initial Before the Shadow playthrough, but now that we are checking this place as a level 140, you will see that these guys do count for the deed. I don't know if this is working as intended or not, but if you are high level, if you can one-shot these guys, which is pretty simple to do, and you wanna complete the Slayer deed in the angle, you can easily do so in here, or at least advance it a great deal. Now that we know that we are really close to the angle, we just need to check how these places connect to each other, because I believe the connection between Cardolan and the angle is a little bit more kind, if you will, than that between the angle and Swanfleet. Because that would allow us to check the angle proper, where the Horwell and the Graveplat. I always make a mess of this. There are two different rivers. One is the Horwell, and I don't remember the name of the other one, but they merge at this sort of delta to create the Graveplat, the Wathlow. So this, as you can see, is the connection between those two areas. Now we are in the angle, seamless transition, and from here it's so much easier to get there. Let's see if we can trigger the transition to the angle once again so that you can check that in the map. Here we have the Avanx at level 40. There are a couple of quests in the angle that will have you come here. Since the angle is a sub-area of the Trollshaws, establishing a sort of boundary between the angle and the Trollshaws is also really tricky. But from what I can tell, the angle, the connection between Cardolan and the Trollshaws is to the angle, actually, because if you go further north, I think we'll face the same issues that we had with Swanfleet and the angle. That is, on one side you will find very steep cliffs that you cannot climb. So if you want to cross from Cardolan to the Trollshaws, I think you actually need to do it from the angle. You can see there already in the north some of those cliffs on the Trollshaws side look really high, and finding a way to cross them doesn't seem so feasible. That one that we see over there, I think that one is Thornhat, the original settlement of the Dunedain of Cardolan. We're not gonna check Thornhat today, but you get the idea, because all this is the angle, as you can see, and the angle also has a connection to the Lonelands. So that means that Cardolan can only connect through the Trollshaws through the angle. If you wanna go to the Trollshaws, you will need to go to the Lonelands first, and that actually takes us to my next point. That is the connection between Cardolan and the Lonelands, because much like the connection between Swanfleet and Eregion, this is such an open area that you can basically go through the Lonelands to whatever location of the Lonelands you want, of the southern portion of the Lonelands. You have a connection with Harloeg. If you come from Hat Nirui and this northeastern portion, you will end up in Harloeg. You can even get to the upper cliff and drop into Mithranost, if you so choose, or like we did at the end of the Before the Shadow playthrough, you can go from this northern path from Caranost and enter Lonelands through the back door of Minas Ithil. So basically, yeah, all this southern portion of the Lonelands you can get through Cardolan. We have already checked that connection with Minas Ithil. You can check episode 27 of the Before the Shadow playthrough. You wanna double check that one. And I think it would be really fun to drop into Mithranost and surprise the enemy in there. They will never see this coming. So let me go back with you when we are at that point. Alrighty, and we are almost there at the connection between Cardolan and the Lowlands. You can see over there Weathertop in the distance, and I gotta tell you, the view of riding north and seeing the ruins of Weathertop from so far away and seeing them grow as you approach, this has given me a feeling of, on one hand, a sense of the true size of Arnor, like few things in the game have, just thinking how big the kingdom was, and Numinas, Fornost, and Weathertop, but being able to see Weathertop from so far away, it's truly amazing. I mean, I had heard other people telling how awesome it was that you were able to see Weathertop from Cardolan and even potentially Swanfleet even, I'm not sure, but one thing is hearing about that and the other one is seeing it for yourself. And I gotta say, seeing Weathertop really, my god, it's such a majestic and imposing view, even with it being just ruins, but it gives you truly a sense of the power of Arnor. That is amazing. And now we finally cross into the Lowlands, and the skybox does change. It's a shame because the skybox in Cardolan is so great. And here, as you can see here, you can actually come. Well, we got to one of the entrances, if you will, but I wonder if you can like drop from above. And it seems like a little bit difficult to accomplish because there's no way to climb this. I don't think so. But if we could come here from, it's so steep. I don't see us doing it, but well, I can dream. Can you imagine dropping from above like a meteor, or something like that? That would have been really fun. But it seems we will need to just conform ourselves with being able to surround this cliff and get into Mithranost from one of its entrances. Once again, there are many different ways in which you can cross from Cardolan to the Lowlands. This is just one of them, but it is amazing how open this area is. Truly, the entire area is connected. Now, there is truly one more location for us to check. We have here a Sarn Fort, but that is a portal, only a portal that will take you right next to the housing area in the Shire, and we had already checked that during the original Before the Shadow playthrough. We have here the road leading to Mineriath, but that is an area that is no longer in the game. So as I said before, this means that we have only one more location to check, and you'll see which one that is. And lastly, here we are back at Hembrand's house in the southern Old Forest. So you see here there is a road, a path, and this one, part of it will take you north to the southern Barrow Downs, actually, as you can see here. And from here you can just continue north until you come to this foresty area that once again was part of the original game, but I don't remember how the wall was implemented in here exactly. I barely came here. There were like a couple of quests in this foresty area of the southern Barrow Downs, but there was not a lot to do in here, so this is an area that I really didn't check a lot. But as you can see here we have the Barrow Downs, and you can come then south and you will eventually end up at Hembrand's house. And you can actually see the transition. Once again, the landscape itself is very seamlessly connected, but here on the Cardolan side of the map, you will see there are some lighting effects that are not available or were not available on the original days of the game, so they are not present in the Southern Barrowdowns. But this shaft of light that then comes into the house, that was added. That's one of the sort of newer technologies, certainly newer than the Southern Barrowdowns. I think this was first implemented in the Eves of Fangorn during the Rohan days. I might be wrong on this one. But as you can see here, even though the landscape is seamlessly connected, they still take advantage of the new technologies they have implemented, and this one adds so much more attitude to the forest itself. I really like it, especially when you are approaching from this side and you see it like this. Is a really nice effect, in my opinion. Okay, and now we are here in Herne to end today's episode, because now that we have checked all the connections between Cardolan and Swanfleet to the other areas, I think we have covered everything, and I wanted to check all the little details I know we had missed during the original playthrough. And one last thing I want to say is that I'm really impressed with the way in which the devs were able to connect these maps to many other different regions. That is something that many other people have mentioned as well, of course. But if we take a look at this, not only is the size of this massive, because it connects Brilland, the Lonelands, Trollshaws, and here the Angle, and then Eregion and Enedwaith. So it is a big chunk of land to be able to connect all this. But the other thing that is really impressive about all this is the fact that all these different areas have their own setting, their own personality, and to be able to create a place in the middle of all of them that it's able to connect seamlessly to each one of them and establish continuity between each one of these different visual identities is a great accomplishment. So something that I have always liked about these Before the Shadow areas is the design, the world design especially, that really shines. The devs really outdid themselves on this one. It's a great accomplishment that they created with these areas. You might be wondering about the connections to Brilland that we didn't check. Well, the connection between Andrath and Brilland we did check in the original Before the Shadow playthrough. And if we come here north from Gond Orhal, we will end up at the Brilland homesteads. So there's not a lot to see in there. That's what I left them out for today's episode. But there you go. This is what I wanted to show you, some of the little details that we missed in the Swanfleet and Cardolan playthrough. But if you know of any other thing that we might have missed, let me know in the comments down below. I'm really curious to find more of these little details, because you can see there is a lot of effort that went to create this area, and I want to see what other details we can find. I know there's at least one thing we haven't covered in here, and that is the epilogues to the Before the Shadow epic. But that is a little bit different and a little bit beyond the scope of today's video. I plan on covering them in the future, and when I do, you'll understand what I mean, if you don't already. But with this, we have come to the end of today's last episode. Thank you so much once again for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I hope to see you on the next one. Until then, my friends, stay safe, take care, good luck to you all, and I will see you later.